Hello, you amazing hackers. Hope you're all doing well today. Today we're going to talk about 5 different vulnerabilities and how you can chain them into something higher and more impactful. So let's get right into it, shall we? First of all, tell me in the comments below what you think of the new lighting. I'm trying a few things out and I want to see what you guys think. So the first vulnerability we want at number 5 is RFI, or remote file inclusion. This is going to allow you to include any file you want from your system. So this is going to be obvious. You're going to be able to do information theft. You're going to be able to do remote code execution. You're pretty much limitless in what you can include. So it's basically going to depend on what defenses your server is going to have built in. And of course, your creativity in this one. On to number 4, and that's going to be local file inclusions. Local file inclusions are a lot more restrictive than remote file inclusions because you have to include something on the system already. You're not going to be able to include any new scripts or anything like that. So you're going to have to be really creative. A couple of ways you guys can chain this. You can look for some local files with information that matter. An example I can give you guys is config files, some logs that you can find on there. Maybe some personal identifiable information on the server that you can download. Any of the stuff that is impactful, that's a good candidate for local file inclusion that, and of course, can bump up your impact. You can also try to look for, excuse me guys, try to use that info to get higher vulnerabilities. So when you find, for example, a configuration file, and you see that the configuration file points to a server that you can reach, and the config file has login data, you can just go to that server, maybe see if you can take over that server, do some remote code execution, any of that kind of stuff. And you can also, if you can control your local storage, for example, by uploading files, and you know the local path to which the files have been uploaded. So if you, for example, can upload an avatar, or an image, and you upload that image and it goes into the folder /images, then and you know that the root web folder is /var/www/images, or the root folder would be var/www, and then the images would go into the /images folder into that. You might be able to include that file, so again, local file inclusion, and get remote code execution that way by uploading a malicious file and then executing it using your local file inclusion. So that brings us on to our next one, which would be number 3, of course. This one is XXE, XML External Entities. This is one I really like because it's one that's not often discovered. XXE can be changed in a lot of different ways as well. Going to give you guys 2 examples. The first one is you can chain it into local file inclusion. I have a video for that. You basically create a new XML entity, and that entity can then be included into the XML output to display what's in there, and you can do local file inclusion in that entity, or you can chain it into server-side request forgery. You can do both of these blind as well, which is going to be a lot harder, but you can use Burp Collaborator to find those types of vulnerabilities. Now on to our next one, which would be number 2, which would be CSRF, or cross-site request forgery. Now, if a cross-site request forgery token is missing or is just not checked on the server, there are many different things you can do. Of course, don't report a missing CSRF token on login functions, on logout functions, all that kind of stuff. It's normal on registration. Anything that's publicly available and doesn't contain a CSRF token or a CSRF protection, that's normal. You can only report vulnerabilities that contain CSRF vulnerabilities in private areas. Like, for example, you can try to update somebody's address. You can try to update their password, all that kind of stuff. Update the received data. So when you try to order a package, for example, you have an address set, you can update that address so all the packages come to you, that kind of stuff. You can report those CSRFs, but you can also try to change CSRFs into cross-site scripting attack vulnerabilities. For example, if there is a self cross-site scripting, but that form doesn't contain a CSRF token or doesn't validate your CSRF token properly, that means that it's also vulnerable to chaining CSRF into cross-site scripting. You can send a link to your victim. The victim will click the link, and because there's no CSRF token, an XSS attack vector will be inserted into that user's self XSS part of the website, so into his profile page, for example. That's a really good way to chain CSRF into XSS. Now XSS can be chained as well. We're going to go on to that next. But first, the second way would be like I said, don't make sure that you don't try things like login, logout vulnerabilities, that kind of stuff. Don't check CSRF there. Now on to number 1, which is of course my favorite vulnerability. Everybody knows that cross-site scripting. Cross-site scripting can be used to do many things. I'm sure you're all aware that cross-site scripting can be used, for example, to steal a cookie, but that's not the only use. You can steal a user cookie. You can steal sensitive data that's on the page. If you can smuggle data out of there, you can exfiltrate that data to your own web server by making a GET request and including a parameter and making the value of that parameter the data that you want to extract. In your access logs on your web server, you will find the request coming in containing that parameter and the value that you wanted to extract. So that's a way to extract sensitive data. You can clearly steal cookies as well, of course. But for exploiting cross-site scripting, I highly advise you know some cross-site scripting, because when you learn some JavaScript, because it's really important that you're able to execute those JavaScript functions using the cross-site scripting functionality available to you. One of those examples I can give you is, for example, there might be CSRF protection on some functionalities, but you might be able to steal the CSRF token and you might be able to smuggle it out of there and put it in your own server and forge another request containing the CSRF token of another user. So there you go, that would be a way to chain your XSS into a different vulnerability. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys have any way of or any vulnerabilities that you like and you have any tips for us on how to improve or impact on those, please don't be shy to drop them in the comments below. I learn as much from you guys as you learn from me, at least, if not more. So thank you guys so much for that. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye everybody.